Hello, my sweet friends. Your host Shurma here. A very warm welcome to my art channel. I have an interesting project to share with you today, and that happens to be painting pretty pink roses in acrylic colors on a note card. The supplies which I would be using for today's project are all listed over here. Let's dive into chapter 1, planning the base for the floral painting. I have this elliptical piece of white watercolor paper and it has a stenciled background. I have used a couple of colors to give it a bit of shading. It is 4 inches on the long side and 3 inches on the shorter side. Now let's move on to the second chapter, that is painting the pretty pink roses. Here comes the palette, which is made up of a piece of acrylic sheet, and these are the brushes which I would be using today. I have a flat brush number 4, a liner brush and a filbert brush. So let's have a look at the palette for the florals. Here is portrait pink acrylic color, pink acrylic color and permanent rose acrylic color along with white. Next, I bring in my flat brush number 4 and I am dipping the 2 corners in portrait pink, pink and permanent rose. And I am trying to blend the colors well. I've also added a bit of white to the mix, so that is 4 colors on the same brush. So that is called multi-loading of the brush. Well friends, so I'm ready to start painting the florals on the stenciled white watercolor paper. I bring in some permanent rose on my flat brush number 4 and I'm trying to create a very loose form of the rose. This gives me a fair idea of the size of the rose which I would like to paint. I also throw in a bit of portrait pink to the mix and it has already started to give it a bit of the look of rose. Don't you think so? Alright, so I begin with the first petal of the rose. So here I have my flat brush number 4. Remember, I have loaded it with 4 colors, that is portrait pink, pink, permanent rose and white. The technique which I am using for painting the pretty pink florals is known as stroke technique or decorative stroke technique. In this technique, we load multiple colors on the brush and the brush goes ahead to do the stroke work by itself. We really don't have to work too hard over here, and with the help of this technique, I am able to achieve blending, shading and highlighting in a single stroke of the brush. Awesome, isn't it? I keep creating the petals one after the other and you can see them quite distinctly. You see there? Yeah, so the petals can be distinguished and that gives a very full look to the rose. And you will see that in a bit as the painting progresses. So here I'm trying to create the bowl of the rose. Now friends, in case you are visiting my channel for the first time, then let me tell you, I have uploaded a whole lot of floral painting video tutorials in this channel and I have used the stroke technique for creating all of them. In case you would like to know more about this decorative stroke technique, then I would definitely encourage you to please visit my past painting tutorials. I would be very happy to drop some of the links in the description box below. Also, if you happen to click on the icon on the right hand corner of this particular screen, that will also lead you to a playlist of such video tutorials. The decorative stroke technique is a wonderful method of creating nature elements like birds, flowers, etc. And the rose happens to be my favorite flower, and this technique is just apt for painting pretty roses. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, there is simply the rose. It was perfect in every moment of its existence. I do love the other kinds of flowers as well, but the rose is so intriguing. I cannot take my eyes away from one. It's so perfect and elegant in all ways possible, especially the pink ones. Do you know, pink roses represent a lot of things like sweetness, femininity, appreciation, admiration, gratitude, and grace. Actually, there are many roses in the pink palette, and they make up their own charming rainbow. Now, this particular rose which I am trying to paint, it is more towards the peach side. I am not sure if it is evident in the video, but in real life, it is looking quite pretty, and I'm happy with the way it's turning out. I hope you're enjoying the process till now. See here, I'm trying to create little petals, and that helps to show some depth in the flower. Little details here and there add character to the flower painting. And these little things are extremely important. They help the painting to stand out from the rest. A turn of the petal or overlapping of the petals creates a lot of interest in a flower painting. I hope you're agreeing with my opinion. And yes, in case you have your own ideas and you have something to say about the painting, please go ahead and write down your comments in the box below. It would be a pleasure to hear from you. Here I'm trying to fix the center of the flower. Check out how I'm using my fingers to blend the colors sometimes. These are the large petals wrapped around the bowl of the rose, and I'm trying to give it a nice shade so that it gives a three-dimensional look. Here I'm trying to add another petal, squeezing it somehow, and there's hardly any space there. So we need to have a feather touch while creating these little details in the flower painting. Feather touch, I mean to say barely touching the paper with your brush, but still trying to put down paint on it. Believe me, that's a task, but it comes with practice, so not to worry. Well, the first of the two roses is done. Now I move on to the second one. Here I bring in a little plate of retarding liquid, and this helps to keep the acrylic colors flowing for a longer time. So when I need to adjust the colors, the retarding liquid comes in handy. Now this particular rose, which is the second of the two pretty pink roses, most of it is outside the paper. So whatever I can visualize, and I'm trying to create that, is only half the rose, and that too I can see it from the bottom. Not much of it is visible. So let's see how I figured that out and try to paint it here. Whenever I feel that the petal should be lighter, I go ahead and add more of white to the mix. Remember, I'm using a flat brush number 4 and I have 4 colors on it. So let me repeat again. Permanent rose, portrait pink, pink and white acrylic colors. Those little lines which I'm trying to create with the chisel edge of my flat brush number 4, those are the upper petals. And here the rose is looking away from me, so I cannot see the petals clearly at all. At this point, I've brought in my liner brush with permanent rose acrylic color on it, and I'm trying to add some depth or dark values to the petals. This is a filbert brush again. I'm trying to make certain spaces darker than the rest. Blending away till I'm happy with the result. The piece of paper is very tiny, so there's hardly any space to do much. Well, the 2 roses are ready, so that takes us to chapter number 3, painting the greenery. Here comes the palette for the greenery. Let's check out the brushes first. So here I have 2 flat brush number 4, a filbert and a liner brush. So here is the palette. I have olive green, sap green, yellow acrylic, burnt umber and white. So I'm going to dip the 2 corners of my flat brush number 4 in sap green, yellow and white. That is olive green again to the mix. So that is 4 colors on the same brush. I need to blend the colors very well, and that will give me lovely results. You will see that in a bit. Before I go on to create the leaves, I have picked up my filbert brush and I am trying to add some colors around the petals of the rose. So here I'm using a bit of sap green, a bit of yellow and a bit of olive green too. Some at the bottom as well. Well, now the painting becomes quite interesting as I bring in my flat brush number 4 with, remember, I have how many colors on it? 4 colors like sap green, olive green, white and a bit of yellow. So here I'm trying to create the leaves in decorative stroke technique. If I would like to have my leaves lighter, then I go ahead and add yellow to it. And even more lighter, then more of white acrylic. Now this being a dark leaf, I have more of olive green on it. And these are smaller leaves. Another dark one, falling over the pretty pink rose. Not much space to do many leaves, so I will try and restrict the number. so that I don't end up adding clutter to the painting. Well, I think that looks good enough. Some more small leaves here and there, and very light ones, you see? No olive green here. Simple sap and a mix of white. More of white here and there to give some highlight to the leaves. Next, I bring in my liner brush and I have burnt umber on it. I'm trying to create a stem of the top rose. I will go ahead and add a bit of sap green and a bit of white to it. These little leaves near the stem. Here I go ahead and add a bit of yellow and olive green to create some contrast between the leaves and the flower. I go ahead and add some veins to the leaves with the help of a liner brush and burnt umber acrylic color. This exercise helps to make the leaves pop. You see them? I'm happy with how the painting has turned out, and leaves tend to make the flower complete. Such is the creation of the Almighty. Never ceases to amaze me. Well, here are some stray vines in burnt umber and white, and I'm using a liner brush. So the pretty pink roses panel is complete. Next, I'm going to turn this into an awesome note card. So let's see how I do it. I bring in some more elements. So I have a white side folding note card base. Then I have an embossed piece of cardstock. The third element is an elliptical piece of cardstock with a cutout frame around it, and then the fourth piece happens to be my painted panel, and there's another piece of a sentiment which says celebrate. So I go ahead and put together all the elements, and this is how it looks. Well friends, that brings us to the close of today's pretty pink roses painting on a note card. So dear friends, signing off for today. We'll be back very soon with more interesting tutorials. Till then, take good care of yourself and bye-bye.